Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to the Soul Seekers podcast, where we believe that hunting has the power to transform lives through primal adventure as we share our mission of mentorship is conservation. To learn more about everything we do, check out our show on CarbonTV or go to soulseekersnation.com. Freedom on, everybody, and stay soulful. Do you want to become a better shooter, reduce flinch, protect your ears, and just overall enjoy shooting your gun that much more? Then there's no better way to do that than by adding a suppressor to the end of your barrel. Be sure to check out Huxwrx Safety Co, as they are a leader in the suppressor world with their OSS Flow-Through Technology, virtually eliminating blowback and toxic gas that can affect weapon system performance and shooter health. To find out more about Huxwrx, go to huxwrx.com. That's huxwrx.com, and go get yourself a suppressor for your upcoming hunts. This podcast is also proudly brought to you by OnX Hunt. When I first got into hunting, I kept hearing all about public land and different access and how to find different locations to hunt. I was like, well, how are people even identifying all this stuff? Well, sure enough, I came across the #1 hunting GPS app, and that is OnX Hunt. If you guys want to get better at hunting and go deeper into your scouting, OnX Hunt is the #1 GPS app for that. Join the millions of hunters who trust OnX Hunt to find more game, discover new access, and hunt smarter. It was a game changer for me, and I know it's going to be a game changer for you if you've never used it. If you have used it, you know the power that it holds. Guys, I really hope you enjoy this episode. If you want to know more about OnX, go to onxmaps.com/hunt. And check out their app. Be blessed, freedom on, and stay soulful. If you're in the market for optics, I want you to go check out blackdiamondoptics.com. Black Diamond Optics offers world-class sporting and tactical optics, including thermals, all at wholesale pricing, direct to consumer. They are going to be partnering up with us for 2023, and I want to start pointing you over towards their direction. Check out Black Diamond Optics. If you've got any questions about it, shoot us a message. Love to hear from you. Be blessed, everybody. All right, guys, if you're looking for a better way to stay hydrated this coming hunting season and on all your adventures in the future, go check out hardsidehydration.com. Their swig rig is awesome, an absolute game changer when it comes to staying hydrated. I get tired of playing around with any water bladders in my bag and having to remove things to get to them and the chance of them puncturing and all that. So what Hardside did, take Nalgene's, got multiple sizes, and you're attaching your hose straight to that. Keep it on the outside of your pack, a lot easier to use. They also have a lot of other cool things. Go check out hardsidehydration.com. Use the code SOULSEEKERS10. That's all one word. Save yourself 10% at checkout. Hope you guys enjoy this podcast. Be blessed. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to another episode of the Soul Seekers podcast. I'm your host, Johnny Mack, and tonight I'm joined by a fellow Texan and somebody who is also a CarbonTV producer, not only of the podcast Fall Obsession, but also the show Texas Dirt and Midwest Mania.
Midwest Mindset.
Midwest Mindset,
Almost
man.
had it, yeah.
I was so close. I can't believe I messed that up. I had to pull that one off. I forget that you have the Midwest Mindset show as well.
We have a lot of different series, so I get them mixed up all the time too. So
yeah,
that's all good. I was calling it Midwest Whitetail for a long time. Like, no, that's somebody else's show. That's not my show.
So if you guys have been following along with this podcast for quite some time, you know that I made a transition down to Texas, and I went from what I know as Western big game hunting to figuring out Texas hunting and this concept of find yourself a lease and manage it.
Yeah.
Manage it to the best of your abilities and let nature also do its thing. And sit in a blind, get your feeders out, and kind of figure out what is going on. I wanted to invite Sam on this show for a lot of different reasons. When I moved to Texas and I realized that Fall Obsession podcast was located no more than 45 minutes from me, I was like, dude.
Yeah.
Come on.
Small world.
Like tiny little world. So I reached out. I'm a subscriber to Fall Obsession newsletter. And I was like, dude, I got to find out what these guys are all about. Reached out, got you on the horn. We connected, and here we are. Both award-nominated shows.
Yep.
Your Texas Dirt is nominated. Also, Best Podcast.
Yep.
Fall Obsession.
Fall Obsession podcast.
What is it like producing content?
Exhausting. I mean, it's not it has its ups and downs for sure. There are so many rewarding pieces of producing content
Yeah.
and putting stuff out there, and just being able to take an idea and make it happen.
Yeah.
You know, that part of everything is incredible,
Mhm.
and what I love. Having to be consistent with it while also having a family and a full-time job outside of the hunting industry, you know, that's where it gets a little taxing
Yes.
sometimes, just because you want to there's an expectation to continue to deliver,
Mhm.
right? You know, deliver content to your followers, to your viewers, to your subscribers. And so we our organization has certainly evolved in the content creation realm, if
Yeah.
you will, and it's come a long way for sure. We're a lot better at it than we used to be. We still have a lot of room for growth and improvement. Don't get me wrong. I'm the first one to say that, but it's man, I love it. Producing content is rewarding for sure,
Yeah.
in a good kind of way. It's awesome to be able to influence. Uh, I don't want to use the term influencer, but to influence and impact the lives of other hunters and outdoorsmen in a positive way is
Yeah.
pretty incredible. So
How old are you?
I'm 27 years old.
27 years old. How long you been at it?
Wi-
Producing content, that is.
Producing content, man, I started filming my hunts and messing around with a camera and stuff, probably 10, 12 years ago.
Yeah.
So it's been going on for a long time. So
Just because you wanted to document the hunt, you wanted to have a YouTube channel. Like what was it that caused you to put a camera in your hand?
so growing up, I would watch the uh like my dad and I's like pre-hunting season, you know, getting us hyped would be to plug in he still had Monster Buck VHS tapes from
Y-
the, you know, the old Realtree guys and stuff. So that would be what we would always do, is we would plug in Monster Bucks August, September, start watching some hunting shows and stuff like that. And so I'm watching all these people film their hunts and everything. And so I always thought it was kind of cool. I'd always just, for whatever reason, been interested in just a camera, just whether it's taking pictures or trying to shoot videos or whatever the case might be. I always had just, I was intrigued by cameras.
Yeah.
So I always had, of course, early on, it's just these cheap little things, but I started taking them to the woods with me. I started filming some stuff, but I never did anything with the footage or the videos. I didn't know anything about editing. I didn't know how to do any of that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
So, um, where Fall Obsession came into play was just me simply wanting to share my experiences. I really didn't care who followed along, who listened, or had any ambitions in that area. It actually started as a newsletter. It started as a newsletter that I would send out. I would literally just write like one, looking back, very poorly written article and send it out to friends and family,
Yeah.
basically, was it. And no ambition to do anything more than that. I was just messing around, basically. And there was one guy, friend of mine, that was in our church. Funny story. He's our business director at Fall Obsession today.
Oh wow.
But he told me back then, he was like, "Hey man, you need to stop doing these newsletters. You just need to create a blog. That way anybody can log on and, you know, check it out, see
Mhm.
what they think. You're not limited to the people you know." I was like, "Okay, yeah." So I did that just on Google, created a blog and started blogging, just
Yeah.
sharing my stories and some stuff. And where it really started to evolve and take shape was, uh, I only know this because we just transitioned at Fall Obsession into a new staffing year for our team, but uh, this is our ninth year with a field staff. And in 2015, I was like, other people should be able to share too. It shouldn't just be me.
Mhm.
So I put out a thing like, hey, I want to accept field staff applicants, you know, just more, if you want to contribute and share stuff on this page, you know, apply.
Yeah.
10 people signed up for a blog that meant nothing to anybody, basically.
Wow.
And what's really cool, and what I take a lot of, I'm really proud of it, that to this day, 9 years later, or in the ninth year now, out of those 10 people, we still have two of them on our staff team. So
Wow.
they've stayed the course the whole time.
Yeah, because
So
people they think things are cool until they realize, oh, it takes time.
yeah, exactly.
And then they're like, oh, well, had all this intention to write an article or to take some pictures or to share some social media, and then life gets in the way, or they feel like they missed the moment, or they're not capturing it. So you just were an outdoor writer, just like,
A very bad one, yeah.
I mean, so was it always fall obsession?
So it was the fall obsession. Like that was what I called the newsletter when I started. It was the fall obsession, and eventually at some point, whenever we were changing things up and trying to be better, at some point we dropped the at the beginning. You
Mhm.
know, we got rid of that and just became fall obsession. But yeah, it's always been fall obsession. I think the first year on the blog, the colors were black and neon green, and then the black and neon orange came, and that's been there ever
Then
since.
it just
So
stuck.
yeah,
Wild. So what did you write about when you got started?
stupid stuff. I mean, literally hunting in Texas or hog hunting or just I don't know, just whatever came to mind. And if I'm being honest with you, it's probably been a really long time since I ever went back and tried to find any of those old articles and stuff. I actually don't hardly write at all anymore. The articles that are on our website and stuff are mainly come from our pro and field staffers now, their contributions to our pages and stuff. So I I like to write, I really do. I haven't done it in a long time. I really
Wow.
haven't. So
It is definitely an art that you got to practice to stay
I
up on.
agree. Yeah.
I, I'm in the middle of writing an article currently that my goal is to get it published in Outdoor Life.
Yeah.
That is my goal. We'll see. Not that I don't think it will be good enough. I'm not sure if it's going to be the content that they're looking for.
Yeah.
Um, it's quite a collaboration of a concept that I have in my head that I want to spit out on paper. So I'm about 1,800 words into what I imagine is going to be like 2,800 words.
Really.
Yeah. It'd be definitely a feature piece. So we'll see. So do you ever think about hopping back on the keyboard, being that keyboard warrior towards putting out hunting content?
Uh, sometimes
Yeah.
it kind of like I mentioned earlier, just comes down at times to just kind of time commitments and where you at, and I hate that, but I'm very busy with my full-time job outside of hunting.
Hmm.
Family life obviously is pretty involved. I want to be involved there. Obviously, we all do. And when I am focused on fall obsession, there's always from a managing a company standpoint now, there's so much other stuff to do that, and I don't want to sound like I'm not, you know, not capitalizing on my passion, but I have articles coming in from staff members that we can publish
Yeah.
and keep that stream of content going.
Yep.
So I'm less amped to write just because we have other people filling that need at the moment, you
Totally.
know.
Well,
So
then at the same time, you also your hands are in other areas, right? It takes a lot of time to put in podcasts, but you got to have that inspiration to sit down at a keyboard and have a clear train of thought and be like, okay, I'm putting this down on paper.
yeah, and I've put some stuff outside of hunting. I've like with my job as a firefighter and stuff. Um, this is getting off from the weeds from hunting, but there's stuff I'm passionate about in my job and everything, and so there's areas of that where I have had an opportunity to write some stuff and do things like that, and so I understand. Like now in the here and now, I understand definitely being in the right mindset
Yeah.
to be able to write whatever you're passionate about is very important. So
Dude, it's so cool. It's so awesome to hear that you started all this in your sounds
I
you
was a
said
t-
you're 27,
I was
19.
a teenager
You're a
when we
teenager
started all this.
and
Yes.
you're like, dude, let's just do it.
Yeah.
How did you get to a point where you had people all over the nation
So that
following you and connecting with you?
so that's been a big part of that's been the evolution of our pro and field staff programs. So we started that first field staff program in 2015 with those 10 guys that came on board. Um, and from there it was and it's evolved as far as how we do it, how we accept applicants. It used to be that really just like we only would take new people on in the summertime, like before hunting season started. and now it's open season. You can apply anytime, you know, at this point. And we got a lot of other stuff in place now, obviously, but the it grew every year. Like those first 10 came on board and they were contributing, they were involved, they were doing stuff. And then the next year, all right, well, let's see if we got more people. And so we put it out again, and more people are jumping on board. And there's some people that are friends of friends are hearing it, you know, through the other people that are already on staff. But I mean, we're building a network at that point, not just from an online standpoint, from our site, but now there's word of mouth. Now there's these other people who are sharing their content published by us on their pages. So their friends are seeing it and they're like, dude, what are you doing? What is this thing? And they're like, oh man, you should come check it out. Come apply, come be a part of it.
Yeah.
So, and that's where it's really evolved. And the past 2 years have been very influential, I think, in our staff programs, because we were getting to the point where we had so much content coming in. We had people that were wanting to do stuff, like our staff members that were wanting to go on hunts together and try to figure stuff out. And I'm over here just like, this is too much.
Yeah.
I can't run this. I can't make this happen for these people who are just as passionate about the Fall Obsession brand as I am.
Yeah.
Which is awesome, but I feel like I'm under delivering. So long story short, that's led to us putting more structure into our staff programs. So we have people all over the country. We, as a company, decided to recognize 5 U.S. regions, like these states are in the southern region, these states are in the western region, etc. And we assigned a regional coordinator, like one of the top performing staffers that wanted to do it. We didn't just force somebody to do it, you know, somebody that wanted to do it, to be like the head honcho in that region, or the point of contact, to where, okay, you're the person that people are going to talk to if they want to get together, if they want to do a group content project, if they want to plan a hunt, whatever the stuff might be, talk to this guy. And then that guy is, you know, at first that guy's coming to me. We went even farther than that. And within the first year of having those coordinators in place, it worked so well that we took at the time, our Midwestern coordinator, his name's Todd Sellen, and we promoted him to staff manager. So now he is over the 5 coordinators, and he runs our staff program. He handles the applications. He handles everything, and I am very, very thankful for Todd. Todd is incredible. I know he's listening to this podcast because
shout out to Todd.
Yeah, Todd is awesome. He came down to Texas last year to hunt with me, and that's what's really cool about Todd and his wife Heather. His wife Heather is on our staff as well. She's a pro staffer with us. They're like the dynamic duo, and they have really built at Fall Obsession. They've been influential in building a family culture, and that's one thing that I really pride ourselves in with our staff program. Is we're not just, I feel like so many brands in the hunting industry, not to discredit good companies, but some staff programs are so big that you're just a number in a system, right? You apply, you get accepted. Here's the expectations, meet them, you're good, and it's just data that they're tracking at that point. There is an element of that, right? That, you know, there are expectations that have to be met of our staff members, but we wanted it to be more than that. We wanted it to be a family. We wanted it, you know, to have that bond that you get in a hunting camp, basically.
Right.
And so that was part of these regions too, was giving people more opportunities to get together. We had our first staff hunt in 2019, actually here in Texas, a management deer hunt on a ranch in San Angelo. It was a very unique situation that we got connected to have the opportunity to do this in the first place. But we had people obviously a bunch of people from our Texas staff came. Yeah. And then we had a bunch of people from out of state coming in to hunt whitetail in Texas. Some had never even been to Texas before.
Wow.
And in 2.5 days, 3 days.
What's up, Soul Seekers Nation? Thank you so much for listening to this podcast. I really appreciate it. As a reward, I have some discount codes for you to use if you are in the market for a brand new hunting pack. Go check out initialascent.com and Initial Ascent packs. They are made in America. Their one-piece carbon frame is an absolute game changer. We run their packs. We love them. And you can save 5% at checkout by using the code SoulSeekers. That's all one word. Also, for those of you who are archery hunters and you are tired of shooting at dots on a target, check out deadnutsoutdoors.com for their lifelike 2D archery targets. You can save 20% on all of their products by using the code SOULSEEKERS at checkout. Once again, the code is SOULSEEKERS, all one word. Go check out initialascent.com and Dead Nuts Outdoors. Enjoy the podcast.
We killed 31 deer. There was literally in the evenings a line at the skinning pole, dude. You had to wait in line to skin your deer if you weren't one of the first ones back. No joke. So, but after that, guys had so much fun. It was such a great experience that they're like, we got to do this again.
Yeah.
Well, like, let's go here and hunt this. Let's go do this. And so that was an eye-opening for me. Like, these people, like, this is a family. Like, this is what hunting camp should be. This is what I want our staff to be. Just one big hunting camp, basically, or have that feel.
Right.
And so Todd and Heather especially, and trickling down to everybody, have been influential in promoting that kind of environment. Sure, if you just want to send in content and just kind of sit back and not get involved in all the other stuff, you could 100% do that. Mm-hmm. But where people really enjoy it, and what Fall Obsession, the satisfaction it brings to a lot of people, is that family aspect of it. And so that's just, again, credit to those folks. But the point I was getting at with that's the roundabout way of getting there. But Todd came down here to Texas last year because his goal as staff manager is to meet every single Fall Obsession staffer in person.
Oh, wow.
That he's told me that's my goal. It doesn't matter how long it takes me, but I want to meet everybody in person. Mm-hmm. And I'm like, that's awesome. So he called me up. He was like, hey, he's a school teacher up there in Michigan. So in the summer, he was like, hey, I'm on break. I think I want to come down to Texas. What are you doing next week? I was like, you got to give me a little more heads up than that, Todd, but let's figure something out. And he just wanted to come down for a couple days, hang out, record some podcasts, and just hang out with me. Go to the bow shop, do stuff. I was like, dude, if you're coming down here, I'm taking you hunting. Like, It may be freaking hot outside, but I'm going to take you hunting.
Yeah.
So we go out there to Texas Dirt. It's actually episode 2 of season 2 of Texas Dirt. I take Todd out there to hunt some pigs, and Todd shoots his very first Texas pig. And I don't know if I've told you this before in our conversations, but I'll say it on your podcast. It was really eye-opening for me because Todd's from Michigan.
Okay.
They don't have pigs in Michigan. It was eye-opening for me because when we walked up on that pig, he was so excited. And he even says on the video, he's like, this is a bucket list hunt for me. And my first reaction was, this is just a pig. Right. And, of course, I've grown up in Texas. I've hunted pigs my whole life. So, to me, it is just a pig, just another pig. But I realized, I was like, man, one man's, everyday hunt is another man's bucket list once-in-a-lifetime hunt.
Totally.
You come from Washington, where bear hunting is a very common thing up there. I come from down here where I've never been bear hunting. So, two contrasting environments where your bucket list hunt is going to be different than mine, So for him, it took some reflection for me to, consciously realize that. But I'm like, man, that's pretty awesome that he was just able to come down here. We hang out for a few days and go knock one off the bucket list just like that,
Yeah.
And so it was pretty cool. So I'd get off on a rabbit trail and stuff with all that, but
I want to just say the very first coyote I ever shot. I was with a buddy of mine, and he's been hunting for a long time. We never hunted together, but until this moment, and I called in my first coyote and shot it, and I was like, no freaking way. I had the shakes, coyote fever.
Yeah.
And this is no knock on him, but to him, a coyote and it was a summertime coyote, right? So it's not like a pretty furred up winter one. It's like, it's like a dirty coyote.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, I would have loved to have the skull from that coyote or do something with it, but it was kind of an afterthought because I
Yeah.
was still so like, oh my gosh, I can't believe it. They tried to circle us downwind. I spotted it, blah, blah, blah. And to him, it's just another thing.
Yeah.
Exactly what you're talking about. I was like, what do you mean that's just a hog? It's like, no, you don't understand. And I think this is very, very important for us to remember because it's so easy. And this is where, like, I talk about the mentorship aspect
Yeah.
is, it's so easy for people to get caught up in the, oh, that's just how I've always done it.
Right.
What do you mean? Like, that stump is the stump I've been sitting on for years, or that's the blind, and this is the way I've been doing my feed, or whatever you want to do. Like, if we get lazy and we get in this resting on our laurels rather than constantly sharpening ourselves to become better at our craft,
Mm-hmm.
we get lazy.
Exactly.
And it shows up in different avenues. Maybe it's potentially ruining an opportunity or a large memorable moment for somebody else because it's like, it's super common.
Yeah.
Like, wait, but maybe not for that person. And just like your Todd coming from Michigan, I went a long ways all the way to North Dakota.
Yeah.
So, like, that was a big deal for me. So, I hear you, and I appreciate the fact that you even stopped and reflected on that. Because a lot of people, being in education and coming across a lot of different people in my life, not very many people are reflective. And I always say inward reflection leads to outward correction.
Yeah.
If you want to have outward correction, you want to, be the change you want to see in the world. You want to, you know, inspire people, get people fall obsessed, right? Then you have to carry that tone
Yeah.
all the time, every time.
Yeah.
And the minute that you slip up is the minute that it really did make a difference, is what I noticed.
No, you're 100% right, and all the things you're saying, like I'm thinking about, uh, they're applicable in many different aspects of my life, not just with hunting, but um, I think reflection is no matter what it might be, I think it is very important. I've grown to appreciate it a whole lot more even in just the last couple years. I may be young, but I've lived a lot of life in a short amount of time, believe it or not, and I jumped into life just feet hit the ground running and kind of had to learn a lot really quick also.
Yeah.
And it definitely had its pros and its cons. My wife and I have been married for over 6 years now, and in just 6 years we've been to hell and back and all over the place with that. And so it's just you learn a lot through those experiences, but being able to reflect on the good and the bad through it all, it definitely you learn a lot. You learn a lot from it, and you gain wisdom from it.
Yeah.
For sure.
Yeah. Man, I love that. Here's a question I have for you.
Yeah.
So I feel like, and correct me if I'm wrong, because you lived in Texas your whole life.
So for the most part, a little background about me. Growing up, my dad was a Southern Baptist pastor for 27 years. He retired when me and my sister were teenagers and started his own business. And big change in life for us growing up then, because we moved from city to country, farming and all that kind of stuff, homesteading. Beside the point, but all as to say, when I was a little kid, we actually lived in Wyoming for 4 years growing up. It was before I was ever really hunting or doing anything like that. And again, looking back on it, I'm just kind of like, man, it would have been cool to live up there like when I was a teenager or when I was older, and I could kind of take advantage and enjoy some of the outdoor opportunities Wyoming has to offer. Because I remember my dad coming back after a mule deer hunt or after pheasant hunting and stuff like that up there. But I never got to experience any of that. I didn't get into hunting as a kid until I was born in Texas. We moved to Wyoming, and then we came back to Texas. And when we came back is when I got into hunting.
Oh, man. Special.
Yeah.
Special. So with you being primarily like a Southern boy, Texas hunting style, feeders, blinds, all that, When you think of Western big game hunting, i- do you think of it like the Holy Grail? Like, oh man, going out west and shooting a mule deer or an elk? Or is whitetail hunting and shooting that massive 10 point or 12 point with a drop tine like the top echelon for yourself?
Man, they're two different animals,
Yeah.
like literally and figuratively, right? So, I've been Western hunting a couple of times in my life. I've been out to Montana on a couple different pronghorn hunts. Super fortunate and blessed the first time to shoot a Pope and Young pronghorn with my bow.
Really?
Day 3, the he was 42 yards. Just it all came together
Sweet.
perfectly, and I didn't realize until year 2 how fortunate I was year 1, because year 2 was an absolute beating. Year 2 was by far the hardest hunt of my life that I've
Really?
ever been on. I wouldn't trade it for the world, but it was it was a week long, and it was long. It was rough.
Was that all spot and stock, or were you sitting in a blind near a water hole?
So
Or
when I killed him year 1, I was sitting in a blind. We did 2 days of spot and stalk, and my very first hunt in a blind, 20 minutes in, I shot him. And man, I'll go off on that for just a second if you don't mind. But
no, man, have at it.
we went up there, and very first stalk of my life, he was a young buck, but he was still pretty nice. We get like 30 some odd yards from a young buck. First stalk I've ever had. It's on video. And Drew, who's our marketing director, he's the one who invited me to go up there because he hunts Montana regularly, so he's pretty familiar with Western hunting, and he lives in Minnesota. He goes out west all the time. So he invited me up there, and very first stalk, we get like 30, 40 yards from this buck, and I didn't shoot. Like I didn't know if that was a good one or not. Like,
Yeah.
and Drew after the fact was kind of like, really?
Like, what are you doing?
What are you doing, man? I was like, dude, I don't know. Like, I knew nothing
Yeah.
going up there. And so, and the weather kind of sucked both years. The first few days, like, we literally had snow on the ground, end of September. And so we're challenged by that. And so I had countless stalks those first 2 days. And then I had one, I was out there actually by myself while we were hunting a piece of private, is where I was on when I killed him. And so I was out there by myself while Drew went and scouted a piece of public that was down the road. Because if I didn't kill that night on private, we were going to go public the next day. So I was by myself, and I had a stalk on a decent buck. The wind was a little crazy. It was a long stalk. Long story short, I didn't kill him.
Mm-hmm.
But that was the first day. Like the temps, sun came out, temps went up. It was like a high of 60. So everything changed weather-wise out there, and they were out moving around. But I was like sweating after that stalk. So I'm hot and sweaty. I'm lumbering down to my ground blind, and I'm getting in there, and I'm all frustrated. And I'm like, man, this is hard. This kind of sucks. I'm sitting there in a ground blind. Funny story, the day before, we had been driving down a road just in between two properties. Both sides of the road we don't have access on, but there's this herd right there on the side of the road, and there was this big buck, nice buck. He had a little, it wasn't broken off, but his cutter was like it was like halfway broken off.
All right, everybody, thank you so much for listening to this episode. As a thank you, I got more discount codes for all of you. If you are in the market for anything in regards to calls, whether it's elk calls, turkey calls, deer or predator calls, you can save 15% on all Rocky Mountain hunting calls by using the code SOULSEEKERS. That's all one word. And if you're in the market for hard side hydration, a better way to hydrate, go check out hardsidehydration.com. Use the code SOULSEEKERS10 to save 10%. And we also have a discount at Graxaw.com. That is, Graxaw is the leader in ultralight game bags and other backcountry gear. Light, fast, and efficient is their motto. Use the code SOULSEEKERS, all one word, to save 10% at checkout.
Nice bucks. We just stopped and watched them from the truck for a while because it was just cool to see a big buck.
Yeah.
Kept on driving. Well, I'm sitting there in that water hole all frustrated, and I see this pronghorn top the hill about 150 yards out. And he's like coming in a trot to the water hole. I'm like, oh, this is about to happen. And I put my binoculars up and I look, and it's a nice buck. And I catch a glimpse of what I feel like is that cutter, that same cutter from 3 miles away the day before.
Whoa.
And I put it out of my mind. I was like, nope, not thinking about that. We're just going to kill this thing. He comes in. I'd already arranged the trail he was walking on. He got to that 40-yard mark. I drew back. He stopped. Didn't even have to stop him. He stopped, let it fly, drilled him. Watched him go down. I'm pumped. Calling Drew, getting Drew out there. We walk up, and sure enough, it's the freaking buck from the day before. So I have, like, we were sitting in the truck, but we videoed him just from the road. I have video of that dude the day before just putting on a show. And then the next day, got to shoot him. So I'm on cloud 9. Drew's excited too for me, and Drew tells me even, he's like, man, that's the biggest pronghorn we've ever killed on this property. I was like, well, now I'm excited. That makes me excited, but I feel bad. I'm like, you've been hunting this property for how long? And I come in here in 3 days and kill a bigger one.
Hey, beginner's luck, huh?
I guess. Year 2, not the case. We didn't have access to the private, so it was public the whole time. The first 3 days, the highest the temps got was 35 degrees.
End of September.
End of September, beginning of October.
Wow.
Same dates both years, and it was rough. Wind, snow, almost got a truck stuck a couple times. Like we were working and no luck. And then the weather turned. We had a couple of close calls, a couple of really, really good encounters. I know on my content I like to talk a lot. I guess probably more than I should about the one opportunity I had at a big buck. Because I went up there year 2, I was like, I got to be good out to 100. Like I had an idea of how fortunate I had been, but I didn't truly know yet. The second year gave me that true appreciation. But I went back up there and I was like, I got to be good with my bow out to 100. So that was all summer practicing, getting good out to 100. That was my goal, and that was a standard I had set for myself. The closest in a week that I got to a shooter was 120. And for that moment at 120, I have that thought, like,
can I do this?
Should I fling it?
Yeah.
Should I let one rip? And some people say I should have. Some people are like, no, you made the right call to not to, and I didn't. But that was just a smart archer. But if there is a next time, you better believe there's going to be a mark below my 100-yard tape for 110, 120 yards on there. There's going to be one.
Yes.
But Western hunting is, like, even just those 2 experiences I've had out there, it has definitely, I've found a love in it for sure. And this year in November, I'm going up to eastern Colorado on a mule deer hunt. I've never hunted mule deer before. So it's going to be another cool first experience for me, and I'm really excited about it. There's also, like, I have an itch to scratch with Western hunting for sure, but it has not replaced my love for whitetail hunting in Texas. And I recorded a podcast this morning with our production director, and we actually talked about this specifically, just how magical and therapeutic it is to be sitting in a tree, just a calm, cool breeze, a crisp morning, dew on the ground, sun coming up through the trees. You watch the woods wake up just from a still position, and then that first deer steps out. There's nothing freaking like it, man, and nothing will ever replace. I don't care if that first deer's a doe, a fawn, a spike, what it is. Nothing replaces that.
Really?
Yes. Like that's forever in my blood, and the want to be in a tree opening weekend in Texas is there. It always will be.
Does this come down to because that's what you grew up doing, or is it more because, I mean, you can scout anywhere you want, right? You can scout public land, you can scout Western hunting, you can scout whitetail, all this. But is it, whitetail hunting, you more have target bucks that you're chasing throughout a season, correct?
Yes.
So even though, like, any deer could show up at any point,
yes,
you see that first deer walk out and you're like, dude, I'm where I'm supposed to be.
Yes. Yeah. And granted, like, there'll be moments in the season where the magic will feel like it's left, where you're frustrated, where you feel like this was the hunt and you might not see anything. There'll be times when your target bucks don't show up. The first year on Texas Dirt, season 1, like one of the first cameras I put out there, I had a 150-inch 10-point on this camera. No joke. The picture's in the video series. I put it in there.
Yeah.
I never saw that deer. I had pictures of him for 2 days in that spot, and I never got another picture. I never saw him again. No idea what happened to him. There's deer like that that will drive you insane. I haven't. I don't think I sent it to you, but I have a picture of my number 1 target buck for this year.
Okay.
He showed up, and he's an older deer. I have a history with him these past 2 years. Now this will be the 3rd year, so I'm really excited. He's nothing to write home about. He's just a big, mature deer. And that's what I like. Man, I have a thing for 8 points. Just big, mature 8 points. I don't know what it is. But things can change so quickly, and the rut down here in Texas is crazy. You'll have deer that you've been watching all year that will disappear, and you'll be worried that you'll never see them again, and December rolls around, and boom, there they are again. You'll have bucks show up that you've never seen before. Like, literally, you can have cameras around every corner, and all of a sudden, just one morning, a buck runs through that you've had no idea he existed. The 2 biggest whitetails I've ever killed in my life, morning and evening. The day that I killed them, hadn't seen them until that day.
Really?
Both of the biggest whitetails I've ever killed, hadn't seen them until that day.
Wild.
Yeah.
Man, I can't wait. So this Saturday, I'm going to go set up my very first lease.
Yeah.
We've talked a lot about this. I've picked your brain on so many different things. I didn't realize, like, you have to know hunting, but then you also have to know a whole nother realm, like ranching.
Kind of.
Concept.
Yeah, it is kind of like that. And I feel like for some people that that Texas or the style of hunting we have down here, that it's foreign to, it probably gets a bad name, and that bad name is baiting. You know, y'all are just a bunch of baiters down there, basically.
But you're master baiters. I don't
You're
know. That was bad.
Going to the editing room on that one. No, it's just like baiting. People look at it in a bad light, especially if you're from a state where it's not a well-used tactic, it's not a productive tactic. It could even be illegal. There's plenty of states out there where baiting is illegal, or there's states in the Northeast where you can bait during the summer, but once the season rolls around, you have to stop baiting, which I think would be even more challenging, in my opinion. I just as soon not bait at that point. Again, outsider looking in, I don't hunt up there. Those guys have their own perspective, and it's what they know. Not to digress to that, but it's how we hunt down here. As short as all of our brush is, as thick as everything is, and just given whitetail behavior in general, we can't spot and stalk whitetail like you can spot and stalk animals out west.
Right. Now, can I just address that for a second?
Yeah, please.
So I just recently got a pair of snake boots. One, because of rattlesnakes all over the place down here.
It is Texas.
But 2, because every bush wants to stab you.
Yeah.
And it wants to. So that's another thing of trying to spot and stalk. Not even trying. Attempting to spot and stalk.
Yeah.
Really is impossible to stay quiet and or like effective, because there is, like, even if you're on a game trail, you might only be able to see like 15 yards out in front of you.
So there's that, and then also just think of general access and topography as well. Like when you're hunting out west, how much room
Glass is my best friend.
Just how much physical room, physical area do you have to work with when you're spot and stalking mule deer or bear or whatever you're hunting out there? You can travel for miles and not have to worry about access issues or, encroaching on somebody else's property or whatever the case might be. Down here, and this is the downside of hunting Texas, and as you've learned yourself, it's so saturated down here with hunters, and for whatever reason, Texas is just not a very social state when it comes to hunting. I talk to my guys that are in other states or out west or whatnot, and they're like, yeah, we just call up the neighbor and, make arrangements and, you can hunt my place, and you can come over here and hunt if you want. And I'm like, you get shot down here
Yeah.
if you do that. Like, everybody is so locked down and tight with their hunting ground. And I, I, I say that like it's a bad thing, but I'm that way too. Like, our gateposts on Texas dirt are painted purple, which I don't know if you know what purple gateposts mean.
For all the
but
people who don't know what that means, what is it?
no trespassing. And if you do trespass, if you do go past that point, you are accepting the liability that you could legally be shot. Literally, a painted purple gatepost is supposed to tell you that. So, like, it's just it's cutthroat down here, man, when it comes to that. And then you have the whole public land aspect too down here in Texas. Even public land saturated. One of the best public land hunters that I know, his name's Jesse Johnson. I go to church with him. He only hunts public land in Texas, and he is very, very good at it. Very, very good at it. He kills good deer most every year, and he's always got a full freezer. But he goes way back. He goes back where nobody else wants to go, and he has figured out he has figured out not just public land and where to go, but he understands whitetail and hog behavior better than most. And those two things put together make him successful. Unless you're willing to commit to that point or, that level at wherever it's applicable to your hunting, just going out there and walking in the woods a little ways into public land in Texas probably isn't going to get you too far.
What is ways back for Texas standard?
Ways back, like Jesse will post like his steps or his, how far he's walked in a day and everything. And I've seen it anywhere from, on public land in Texas going, 4 to 5 miles to 10 miles to, and it fluctuates, give or take anywhere in that window. So I'm not talking about like 20 miles back. Probably on Texas.
You've reached the other side, potentially.
Yeah, you've gone farther than you should have at that point. But still, like, Joe Blow and his brother and his dog that go out there every opening day, they're not going to go back that far.
Yeah.
And they're going to haul all their stands and stuff with them because they hadn't scouted at all, and this is their first trip out there.
Yep.
So his commitment is what makes him successful, and he's a good example of a good public land hunter in Texas.
Is he fit?
He's in good shape. He can do it for sure, and he physically and mentally knows what's required of him. Like, if he kills an animal back there and what needs to get done.
That's really interesting. They intertwine.
Yes.
These two types of hunters. There's a lot of commonalities, and then there's a lot of differences. You don't have to be fit to be a whitetail hunter. If you want to be somebody who is efficient on public land, being fit is a priority.
Right.
If you don't have access to drive your side-by-side or your quad, or if everything relies on foot, whether it's pedaling a bicycle or hiking in, like, you got to be able to handle that. And not a lot of people who have never ventured that far understand how challenging that is.
Yeah. Well, when all you know is a stand and a feeder, that seems way too complicated, way too difficult, way too challenging. A Western hunter coming in, it's not out of the ordinary, right? But for somebody who grew up down here and that kind of stuff, and it's more difficult. It's more foreign to
So
them.
all these people who are like, "Oh man, there's no public land in Texas. There's no public land in Texas." There is, and you can hunt it effectively if you're willing to put in the work.
If you're willing to put in the work, you can. Yeah. And granted, public land is public land. Texas public land is saturated, and I'm not saying that there won't be some stupid stuff out there that you got to deal with from time to time, or dumb people. There's always going to be that, and if you do it long enough, you're going to have to deal with that. But if you put in the work, like anything, you can be successful with it. So,
man, I'm a huge proponent of this whole Malcolm Gladwell's 10,000 hour rule, where if you are 10,000 hours into something, you've reached level of mastery. And that's kind of like hunting, right? the more days you spend afield, the more days you spend scouting, the more days you're out and about learning, gaining information, knowledge, angles, perspectives, the better off you are come hunting season, and your chances of filling your tag goes way higher.
Yeah.
When it comes to this idea of stand, blind, feeder, baiting,
Mm-hmm.
you can always fill a tag, it seems like.
Mm-hmm.
But it's not. So what I've learned from you is like that corn feeder goes off, it's only going off for 5 seconds. You could make it go off for as long as you want, but that's a very expensive trip. So it's not necessarily that these deer are like, oh, the dinner bell's going off, I'm coming in. They still are living their natural habitat, doing their natural thing. And they've made it into a pattern of, oh, let's go swing by the watering hole and see if anyone's there, or
Yeah.
the local bar, and maybe there's some hot chicks there. Is that kind of the concept?
So early season and summertime, that's applicable because you will see deer on your cameras, you will see deer coming into your stands and everything, but they might not. While there might be some rhythm to it, particularly with does and fawns, it's probably not going to be like every single day. With pigs are completely different. Pigs are freeloaders and they'll come eat anything that's there in front of them. But
They're a bunch of pigs.
yeah, they're pigs. So, but for deer, when they still have, you're not replacing the food that they have in the woods. Like before you were on that property, there were deer on that property and they were getting along just fine before they had your corn feeders, right?
Mm-hmm.
So they have food in there. They know how to survive. And this was an educational piece that we had to learn year one on Texas Dirt. Is it was very challenging year one for us to pattern deer like we had been accustomed to in the past on previous leases and properties that we had growing up. And we were pulling our hair out over it like, dude, this buck is coming in. Like, I got pictures of him for X amount of days coming in at the same time. Like, what's going on? Or why is he not showing up? Why did he pick now to come in? Or why is he not doing it? We were so new into those setups. Those setups were so new out there that the deer weren't patterning to them yet. That we had a property that was completely bare as in not hunted before us for decades. So we have a whole generation of whitetail out there that on that property they don't know what feeders do.
They just existed.
Yeah, they don't know what feeders do. They just live their life. So we literally had to realize that our deer are having to learn what a deer feeder is. Like legit, you wouldn't think that, but they did. Now we fast forward to year 3. Yeah, I got does coming in every day. Every morning, every evening, I got does at most of my stands. I certainly have pigs there. My bucks are somewhat regular. Again, you're not replacing their food. You're adding to it. You're adding that stop where it is going to be more influential and where you can bump up those feed times a little bit, in my opinion, is when you get into late season. After those first couple of freezes, they start losing all their food, all the acorns in the woods and all the rest of their natural vegetation that they normally rely on. Mm-hmm. That's when they're going to rely on your feeders a little bit more. Because at that point, especially if you, like I leave my stuff running year round. Because I want them to know where the food is. I don't expect them, like in the summertime or the spring when everything's green and great outside, I don't expect them to be at my feeder every day. But I expect them to know where it is and to know that there is food there.
That it's going to be consistent.
That it's going to be consistent so that when a drought hits potentially, like because we're in such a big, or have been in such a big drought right now, I've seen a little bit more consistent pattern in some of my deer showing up just because they are losing some food out there with the drought. But when those tougher times come, whether it's drought or wintertime, that's when they'll be like, yeah, we probably need to go to McDonald's today. So
interesting.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's a whole nother realm of, it's just a different, like we said, it's a different style of hunting, but there's an element to it, and I've told you this before, there is an element to it of if you build it, they will come. If
Yeah.
and that's one thing we learned year one is we were spending so much time moving cameras around and putting stuff in different places on Texas dirt, just trying to figure out where are the deer, where do we need to put our stands, what's going to be best. And literally the conclusion we came to at the end of the year was, let's just put a stand up and they'll find it. like legit. So yeah, that's if you build it, they will come, but there's still an understanding too of whitetail behavior and understanding, like when you do put a stand up, okay, they're going to come in, but where do they come from? How are they going to approach this area? What's their access point? Where do they leave from? Where do I want to put my stand? How's my stand going to be affected based on its orientation with the sun or the typical winds that blow through this area? All those things are things you have to think about when you're putting in a stationary hunting point like this. Because when you're spot and stalking and you're playing the wind, well, you're naturally just going to try to plan your stalk for that specific stalk to where the wind's in your favor.
Mm-hmm.
But here, like, I have to have stands set up across the property, different orientations, because I might have a buck coming in every single day at this one stand, but the wind's completely wrong. And if I hunt it, I'm going to blow him out of there because he's going to smell me. And I might have to wait a week because the wind's wrong before I can go in there and kill that buck. And I have to choose somewhere else to hunt. So I have to have other stands that I can hunt in the meantime. So
I got to pay attention to the weather a whole lot more.
It helps. I've taken it for granted for a long time, but understanding the typical winds that I have out there and where they come from the most part, it's definitely been beneficial. My primary ladder stand that I have out there, it is on the southeast corner of that feeder, if you will. So it faces northwest. So for any north wind that I have coming in,
You're golden.
I'm pretty good. And the deer come in from the north side 9 times out of 10. But what I realized just last year is we were getting all these winds coming out of the southwest, which in that orientation, the wind's blowing between me and the feeder. And that made it challenging just with that perpendicular wind because they would catch whiffs of me still. And it added another element that I didn't need. And because it's I overhunted it just because I love being in a tree, and as short as all the brush is in Texas, it was my only tree stand.
What do you mean you overhunted it?
So I try not to, when I say overhunt, when you walk into your stand, you're making noise. I've seen guys that rake their paths. They take a leaf blower out there and blow everything off. Sometimes you can do anything you want to try and eliminate as much noise as you can going in and out. And I do think it's beneficial to have the best entrance and exit you possibly can for your stand, but you're still going to make noise going in there. You're going to put scent down going in there. I don't care how good you think your scent control is, and there is good scent control out there. I am a believer in scent control. Don't get me wrong, but you are going to put scent down going in and out there, whether that's back of the truck or closer to your stand. You're going to put scent down. You're going to have days where you fumble around. You drop your backpack. You drop your binos. You're making unnecessary noise trying to get situated in that stand. You're going to have afternoon sits where you go in thinking you're super early and you walk out there at 2:30 or 3 in the afternoon and there's a deer standing in front of you. Just a random deer that decided it was going to get up in the middle of the day. Stuff like that. When you come in so frequently to a stand, you just like if I have pigs coming in every single day, my deer probably aren't going to come in as much because they just don't want to deal with it. And so that's a legitimate possibility too, where if you are putting too much human traffic in an area, the deer are going to gravitate away from that area. It could even be just the noise of your four-wheeler or your truck pulling up to the next closest spot wherever you park that day. They might get used to that, and they're smart. They begin to associate that with, well, when that truck pulls up over there, some dude comes walking through the woods over here. I don't want to hang out over there. They associate these things. They learn those things. They can pattern you in that way, in that they know, hey, there's always something going on over here. And it just decreases their activity to that area. So when I say overhunt, I don't want to create that that pattern for myself of coming in there all the time.
Right.
The other side of it too is if you hunt in a place long enough, you're undoubtedly going to hunt it when the wind's wrong at some point. If you just try to hammer away at the same spot, if you don't hunt the wind, you're going to overhunt it. You're going to cause issues, and you're going to have that deer that wins you, has never winded you before, but now they've winded you once. So the next time they come in, it might throw off their pattern. They might wait another day or two before they come back, especially if they're a buck. But when they come back, they're going to be weary. They're going to be on alert because they smelled you the last time they were there. They remember that. So that's the other side of it. So when I say overhunt, that's kind of what I'm talking about.
What about the idea of cattle and ranchers? Like, do deer get comfortable around them at all? Or because I'm hunting a lease that is a cattle farm, a cattle ranch, first and foremost. That truck pulls up in that pasture, those cows come running.
Yes. So our property that we hunt, it's 807 acres. And the landowners, they do have several head of cattle that run on the place. And they have a guy that comes out there and takes care of them. But more so than that, there are oil wells all over this property. There are multiple active wellheads on this property, and there are guys that drive through the property every single day, sometimes multiple times a day, checking that stuff. But they always stay on the main roads, and every single one of them has a white pickup truck.
Mm.
Guess what color my pickup truck is?
White.
White. I didn't plan it that way, but it worked out. So whenever we are going in that much frequent traffic, or the traffic for the cows, again, deer are smart. Deer will recognize that. They get used to seeing this truck comes in, it stops here, and then it leaves. They get used to seeing that kind of stuff, and I don't want to say that they're desensitized by it, but like they see white trucks driving through the property all day, every day, 365 days a year. So whenever I take my truck out there and I'm driving around, guess where I'm parking?
Right where they park.
All of my access points lead to a wellhead, and I park my truck on a wellhead because they're used to seeing a white pickup truck at those wellheads. So I can, like, I literally have parked my truck. The closest stand that I have to a road and an access point is it's probably 150 yards from that wellhead. And I've literally parked that truck there, and from my tree stand, I can look out when it's wintertime and barren, and barely through the trees, I can see the white of my pickup truck. And I'm like, oh, this is uncomfortable. The first year, I'm like, this is uncomfortable. I don't like this. I'm too close. Freaking deer walk out. So they're very intriguing creatures. They're very intelligent down here, but they learn to understand routines. They can. So when it comes to cows, deer and cattle, like, you won't catch them standing side by side, but they coexist. And you have to think about it, especially if they've been running cows out there for years. If they've been feeding cows out there for years, well, every deer out there most likely has grown up knowing that cows are cool. Like, we let them have their space, they let us have our space, but, yeah, that truck comes out there, hangs out with the cows, and then it leaves. So
Interesting.
They learn those things, and just like you grow up knowing that, cars drive down the street. You never knew anything different, Same thing with the deer. If they grow up from the time they're a fawn, seeing truck comes out and feeds cows, well, they understand, yeah, truck comes out and feeds cows. So
fascinating. Okay, so the season opens here in 3 weeks or so?
Coming up September 30th.
I have no idea what's even out there. My cameras are going up soon. Setting up the little tact cam reveals what I went with. I was like, dude, I'm gonna just pay for the unlimited. I want to see every picture sent to me. Like, maybe it's the instant gratification that I wanted or whatnot, but I'm like, I need to catch up I feel like I gotta play catch up in a short amount of time. That being said, I also feel like I want to shoot a buck with my bow during early archery season. However, if I don't, then I get to play the whole idea of rattling.
Yeah.
Do you just sit in a blind and rattle a certain this feels good time to rattle, or how does that work?
I by no means consider myself a master at hunting the rut. Don't so I take it with a grain of salt.
Very
I
good.
guess.
You heard it
But
from him first.
yeah, I'll put it out there. I'll preface it, but it is. It's definitely. I don't know. It's hit or miss. I would say you need to see rutting activity like in your area,
Mm-hmm.
like see some bucks actually chasing before you start rattling and trying to call. Um, Mainly because if you try to do it too prematurely or pre-early, you run the risk of they're not going to be interested. Not that you could deter them, not that you will, but they're going to hear that and be like, "Nah, man, I'm good." Especially the mature ones. You might get some young ones coming in early on, but for the big boys, you want to make sure that it's on when it's, before you start rattling. Normally I start if I'm a little uncertain, I start with a grunt call normally before I go to the horns or the battle bag, whatever I got. Um, and that's just kind of see if I, you know, kind of how I feel out there, kind of what it's getting. And sometimes I'll even wait until I have eyes on a buck before I actually start hitting something to see if I can turn him and see how he reacts. And if he doesn't react, I stop because I don't want to waste my time or blow him out of there or anything like that. I've had luck with rattling horns one time.
Oh, really?
I have had luck with a grunt call or a snort wheeze a countless number of times. And probably just because I don't know if it's just because I've only had luck with the battle bag one time where I brought in a good buck, which I didn't even kill, by the way. That's an interesting story, but not for lack of trying. Don't get me wrong, but I don't know if it's just because it was just that one experience that I have to think back on that just kind of discourages me from trying it. But normally I have eyes on a deer before I actually try to turn him.
So, and then is that the thing about this whitetail hunting is once you get target bucks, you're hunting that target buck, and if he doesn't show up during early season, you are like, okay, I can't wait for the rut.
So that's another game that you play. That's another gamble because you can look at all the bucks you want. You can have 10 bucks on your cameras that are shooters in your mind that you want to kill. That like, man, any one of those walks out, I'm shooting them. And you could pull your hair out early season because they're not doing what you want. They haven't turned from being nocturnal yet. They're being jerks to with you. And then the rut shows up, they all disappear, but all of a sudden this big boy walks in that you've never seen before. And you're like, man, I want to kill one of those 10, but look at this dude. He's right here.
Yeah.
I got a lot of criticism, even from our own staff, year one on Texas Dirt because of some of the deer that I passed.
Oh, really?
And I was adamant that I wanted to kill a mature buck, and I was probably my expectations were probably too high from getting that one of that first card pull 150-inch 10-point out there, and that was in my mind like what I wanted to kill. And
Is
then
this or nothing?
Yeah, and but then you have my dad at his stand, which is on the north end of the property. Most of my bow hunting setups are on the southern end, and my dad has his rifle stand toward the north end. And he has this just big, gnarly looking 8-point that's coming in, just a big, mature deer, just massively physically bigger than any other deer at the feeder, just giant. He has that deer coming in. So when this 4.5-year-old 10-point comes out, that's a beautiful buck that I have a lot of footage of in season 1 of Texas Dirt, and I had probably a dozen opportunities to kill this deer throughout the year. I was like, yeah, I'll save that one for my wife. And of course, whenever she was out there hunting the few times that she was able to go, he never showed up. So, like, I literally had that 10-point, man. It's on video. It's in season 1 of Texas Dirt. That buck is under the feeder for I don't know how long, several minutes. And then he starts walking toward the blind. And he walks from me to that door from the blind. And it's all on video. He is just looking in the blind, dead straight facing me, looking in the blind, just staring at me. And I'm sitting there like, oh my gosh. And he turns broadside, 3 yards away from me. Broadside deer.
You could have stabbed him.
Yeah, I could have thrown my arrow at him and been fine. Still gotten a pass through. And like again, I let him walk, thinking my wife could kill him. Hindsight, I should have freaking shot that deer. He was a good deer. And turning this back to like the buck that I have my eye on this year, and I'll show you a picture when we're done. But he was a 7-point the last 2 years. It looks like he's got like little crab claws on the front, both fronts this year. I'm pretty sure it's
bigger than that.
A lot bigger than that.
The crab, I mean.
Yeah, about that size.
A lot.
But he, so the first time I ever saw this deer, it was during the rut. I never had a picture of him. I'm hunting my bow blind year 1 on Texas dirt, and it's not even legal light yet in the morning, and I can see the silhouette of a doe walking across in front of me, like 12 yards away from me probably. And then a bigger just body mass is following her out. And I'm like, that's got to be a buck. And it was light enough that you put your binos up, you can kind of see what you're looking at. And I put him up just by happenstance in the perfect spot, and he's looking at me, big old rack. I'm like, what deer is that? I've never seen that buck before. And I'm stone cold because he is glued to me at that point.
So your blind is open?
I have it open in the front, yes.
Because you're ready to shoot.
Yeah, I normally keep about a 1, given in this particular blind, based on the brush on the sides, I had about probably just shy of a 180 open around me. And yeah, he's glued to me. He's looking at me. And so he keeps, every once in a while, he would turn his head and check just to see if the doe was still there, and then he was right back to me. This deer had never been here before, to my knowledge. So,
but he didn't like what he saw.
He didn't like what he was seeing. So he was very cautious. So any opportunity that he would glance over at that doe, I'd be grabbing something. I'd be getting my bow ready. I'm trying to get something. I'm watching the clock, like waiting for legal light because I'm going to shoot this deer. Again, every other target buck in my mind went out the window because now I have this one in front of me. He walks around to the side. I'm right-handed shooter, so it was perfect. He's on my left side over here. He gets all the way around, and at this point, I have my bow up like this, and I look down at my watch, and it's a minute past legal light in the morning, so we're into legal shooting light now. So I'm like, here it is. And I literally, it was low enough and in the blind, I couldn't see my pins, so I need to turn my sight light on. So I reach up, I click my sight light on, and as I'm bringing my hand back, the little Velcro cuff on my jacket barely touches my bowstring. And I'm talking about the quietest sound that you could possibly think that you could make in a ground blind and be okay. And this deer heard that. He immediately turned his head straight in front of him and just walked away. He was standing still, looking away from me, and as soon as he heard that, boom, he's walking away. He's done. It was all he needed to tell him, yeah, we're leaving.
Walking away at a fast pace? I mean, you don't want to, I guess, maybe you do, maybe you don't want to shoot at a moving animal with a bow.
Well,
but you're at 12 yards? I mean, it doesn't seem
he had walked around. He was at 20 at this point. Gotcha. on my left side, and I was running, like, where he was standing, I was good, but he kept moving. All it took was 4 steps, and now I had brush in the way. That deer then decided that he was going to live the rest of the season on my dad's stand. My dad never saw him in person, so he never got shot. I got pictures of him after the season ended, and so I knew he made it through. Yeah. And then at the beginning of last year, 2022, I had pictures of him again at my dad's stand. And he showed up a couple times just like nocturnal throughout the year in various places, but I never saw him in person last year, ever. And then this year, I'm like 95% sure this is the same deer. He's old. He's an old deer. He's got a big old brisket on him, and he's back at that same stand where it all started. That's where he's showing up again.
He's ready to eat an arrow.
he's gonna if he keeps it up. So,
Oh man. So
but
tell me about the story of this deer that you saw.
oh man,
And
so like the rattling story, is that what you're
yeah.
saying? So this was when I don't remember how old I was, but my dad and I were hunting together, and it was during the rut. And the property that we were hunting on at the time, it had this ridge that ran right through the middle of it, and from that ridge you could get up there, and you could watch like deer moving all over the place, and even on the neighboring properties. Like that's how far you could see. So typically we would like if we had a morning hunt that wasn't going too good
Mm.
and it got to be late morning and we hadn't seen anything, if you wanted to, it wasn't uncommon for a guy to just default back to that ridge and just sit up there and just watch and stuff like that. And I forget if we started down low or how the ridge came into play. It was a while ago, but we ended up, for whatever reason, we knew that deer were chasing in this one corner of the property, so we went down there. And by the time we get down there and get in a good spot, we're like, it just seems dead. It's like 10:30 in the morning. Things are winding down. We're just like, yeah, all right. So my dad, we're sitting on opposite sides. This was before I bow hunted. We're both rifle hunting. We're sitting on opposite sides of this bush. And my dad's like, just hit your call a few times or whatever you got and just see if anything responds. We'll stay here for like 10 minutes. So I sit down, I hit the horns, a couple grunts, hit the horns again. And I hear my dad behind me like, Sam, Sam. And I glance behind me, and this buck had just jumped the fence. Just huge deer.
Ready to fight.
Huge deer. And he was primed. He was looking for a fight. He had just topped the fence, and he was coming in. And I'm looking at him like, oh, my gosh. And right when I looked at him was when he came running around the corner, and he looked at me, and he turned, and I just threw my gun up and popped off a shot, and I shot over his back.
Oh.
And he took off. So I mean that's literally all there is to the story, but that's the one successful rattle that I've ever had. It was calling in that big boy.
What day was it?
What day was it?
Yeah, like day of the month. What, November 6th?
It was mid-November, like November somethingth.
Okay.
I don't remember the exact day. But
Okay.
yeah, it was a clear day, very little wind. It was cool, probably in the 40s. So it was a beautiful day to hunt for sure.
You're getting me all jacked right now, man.
Dude, I'm freaking jacked. I'm sitting over here like wanting to go deer hunt, man.
I'm telling you. So one of the most fascinating things is, which I don't know if people, maybe they do know this about me or they don't. I actually haven't killed a big game animal in quite some time.
Yeah.
It's been since 2020 where I filled an elk tag, a deer tag, and 2 bear tags. Then 2020, was that 2020? Yeah. And then 2021, I got ready to move. A lot of stuff went down in the world.
Yeah.
Had some misses by other people. I was filming a lot more. Then last year, I missed on a spring bear on one that just randomly stumbled upon. That's in season 3 of Soul Seekers. That's on Carbon, episode 1. And then this year, I didn't big game hunt at all last year. Besides that spring bear hunt, took my oldest son out for a deer hunt. He shot a spike, super awesome.
Yeah.
And then here I am, all the way in the fall. I haven't shot a big game animal in quite some time. I got this itch, man. I gotta.
Yeah. Man, so until last year, the last mature whitetail buck I killed was 10 years ago.
Really?
Yes. I hadn't killed a whitetail buck, period, for 9 years until last year. I shot a management spike last year. That was the first whitetail buck I'd killed.
Of choice, like because you weren't seeing anything else and you needed the meat, or how'd that play out?
No, we had some spikes on camera, and this one in particular, he just physically he looked a year older than the rest. He looked like he was 2.5 instead of 1.5, which a 1.5-year-old spike in Texas or 1.5 little forky, it's not uncommon, and those deer can still grow to be big. But this deer was bigger. He was 2.5 and didn't have a whole lot going for him in the antler department. So if there was a spike that I wanted to shoot, it was this one. and I had the opportunity to shoot him. So yeah, it was a meat kill at that point, and a management kill to cull him out of the herd. And what some people don't realize who aren't familiar with Texas is certain counties in Texas, including the one where I hunt, have what we call antler restrictions, which are where you are only allowed by law to kill. You can kill 2 bucks, but one of them has to be a mature buck, and the state of Texas defines a mature buck by having an inside spread of 13 inches or greater.
Which is typically beyond the tips of their ears.
If it's outside the tips of the ears, you're good. It even says that in the regulation book, and they have pictures and stuff. Like,
because no one's out there like measuring, like, oh,
put my
dude,
thumb up there, see if it works,
Right.
But then the other deer in those, or buck in those antler restriction counties, can be a buck with one unbranched antler. So he could have a fork on this side and just a little cow horn on this side, and he's a legal deer. He could have 12 points on this side and a cow horn on this side, and he's a legal deer because that's one unbranched antler. I understand why they have that law and have that rule, because they don't want just, redneck Joe Blow going out there and shooting every deer in the county, every 2.5-year-old buck that walks the face of the earth.
Mm-hmm.
So I understand that. But from a management standpoint, it can be pretty frustrating. I have a deer on camera at my dad's stand right now. He has 4 on this side, just like a normal 4x4, 8-point, whatever you call it from where you're from, but normal 4 on this side. And this side is just 2 big old spikes. Like it comes out of the base and splits and goes up into 2 spikes.
Mm-hmm.
That's a branched antler. That's not a legal deer in Texas. That deer's got bad genetics. That deer needs to be shot and culled out of the herd. He's 3.5 years old.
But instead, he's going to be spreading the seed.
But instead, there's nothing we can do about it.
Unless someone wants to.
Unless somebody's brave. Which I'm not going to play that game.
No,
So,
I was going to say unless someone wants to notch their quote-unquote, I don't even want to say it, so I'm not going to. But their big buck tag on that buck.
he's not legal.
Because it's not outside
it's not 13 inches. So that deer
literally can't be shot.
potentially for his whole life will be an illegal deer in the state of Texas.
Okay.
Potentially.
That's wild.
Now, I've seen deer with some crazy antlers, like genetically over several seasons, like transition kind of out of it, or it just becomes something cool, even cooler than it was, but legal, cool.
Right.
And so I'm not saying that couldn't happen to him, but it's frustrating right now because I look at that deer, I'm like, yeah, he needs to go. But I can't do anything about it.
Dude, it's so wild coming from Western hunting where you get 1 deer tag a year, like per state, and unless you draw a special permit of like a second deer tag or doe tag or whatever. And for the longest time, like I'm searching for points. I'm like, give me a third point, give me a third point, and anything that you could hang a ring off of or has to be an inch long counts as a third point. Where I've passed on a couple deer because I was like, I'm pretty sure that's a third point, like. But I'm not going to, because I'm filming this, I'm not going to risk it.
Yeah.
So I'm not shooting. And at the same time, then I'm eating tag soup. And I'm like, dude, I really wish I would have shot that deer.
Yeah.
When it comes to going back to this idea of like Western hunting, I always call it transformation through primal adventure. Like this idea of like you're going to load up everything in your backpack. You're going to take off. You're going to be self-reliant. You're going to face these challenges and adversities. You don't know what's out there. You're going to make it happen. Do you have that with this whitetail hunting? Or do you find adventure in it? Or is it like something completely different that I'm missing?
I do. But like I said before, it's different. It's just a different kind of adventure. Like Western hunting, you have a literal physical adventure, a physical journey that you are going on where you are moving through God's country to, seeking an animal, basically. You are 100% in their world, pursuing them. For me, the adventure comes in, I never know what's going to happen in front of me. Not to say this isn't a special part of Western hunting. I love it about Western hunting, but Western hunting, you glass, you're like, oh, there's one, there's one right there. We're going after him. There, I'm sitting in a stand just enjoying being out there, and I turn my head and boom, there's a buck right there. And just like that, everything has changed. There's no build up to it. There's no we got to get close enough. It's just boom. Oh, here we go.
Okay.
We're there.
Okay.
And then also just with Texas and some of the unique things Texas has to offer, sometimes you just never know what kind of critters are going to walk out in front of you too. Hogs are another one. And I've told you this before, I don't go out hog hunting during deer season. I deer hunt during deer season. If I kill a hog during deer season, it's just simply because of opportunity. Last year, I shot he's certainly the second biggest, if not the biggest boar that I've ever shot in my life. And I shot him with my bow. Didn't expect that. I was deer hunting. And next thing I know, I shot this big boar. I didn't even think that he was as big as he was.
Wow.
Until I literally walked up to the dead animal laying in front of me, and I was like, this thing is massive.
My other buddy, Flatland Sam, who you're going to get a chance to meet here pretty soon.
Yeah.
He uses the term, that hog is big enough to hunt. Like where you're intentionally working to get that one because it's so big. You ever get like that?
I have some hogs that I want to hunt or I want to kill because they're massive and they need to go. They're destructive. I don't like them.
Yeah.
If you want a good hog for eating size, you might go a little smaller. Like this big boy that I killed, just straight up honest, we didn't eat him. And some people might be like, man, that's wasteful. But what you don't understand about Texas is hogs are varmints. They're pests. That's why the state allows you to kill them any time of the day or night, year-round, 365 days a year. There's no season for them. You don't have to, if you're hunting private land, you don't even have to be a licensed hunter to kill them on private land. If you're hunting them on public land, all you have to have is a hunting license. You don't have to have a tag. You can kill as many of them as you want. You can trap them. You can do whatever you want.
Yeah.
Blow them up. Like literally. You could blow them up if you wanted to.
I have seen that one video on YouTube.
Plenty of videos.
There's a pile of corn and tannerite.
Tannerite in the middle. Yeah.
All these hogs come, they just shoot.
They just blow them up. Like literally. And perfectly legal. Like that's how invasive. And then they repopulate so fast. The sows have 2 to 3 gestational periods a year.
Yeah, every 90 days.
Yeah.
Is what hogs.
So they can dish out some litters real quick, fast, and in a hurry. So when you're trying to control a hog population, one thing, if you kill the big boar, the head honcho in the area, typically the other pigs in that particular area, the immediate vicinity, they'll disseminate for a little bit. It'll scatter them for a little bit, or at least this is what I've experienced. Eventually they'll work their way back in, don't get me wrong, but you kill the boss hog, for whatever reason, that's like a statement to them, and they find somewhere else to roam for a little bit.
Interesting.
If you want good eating size, the sows, like 100 to 150 pounds, they're the perfect ones. But these big boars, like this big one that I killed, man, he's like you walk up to him, he stinks. You touch him, he's literally greasy from the outside. You haven't even gotten to the meat yet. And then if you did cut him open, the meat itself would be greasy too. It's just, you don't want to eat that.
Yeah.
You don't. And from that standpoint, it's no different than killing a coyote or another pest. Like coyotes wreck your deer herd. A pig will wreck your other stuff. Granted, there's plenty of stories of them like killing fawns and stuff like that. If they have the opportunity to, they don't seek them out, but if they have the opportunity to. But I have pictures of pigs tearing up my fences. I have pictures of pigs, like these big ones, knocking over my feeders before. I literally have a picture of my feeder like this, a boar there. Now my feeder's like this, boar there, and now my feeder's on the ground, and the pig's eating the corn out of it.
Wow.
So they're destructive. They'll tear it all up. And they're smarter than a lot of people give them credit for. So.
Yeah. Well, pigs, they say, are like one of the smartest animals.
They are. And so we've talked about this a lot on our podcast, and I'm trying to plan a day with a guy that I've known for a long time actually, but he's very, very intelligent hog hunter, and he's a firm believer in, pigs are smart animals. And I'm trying to set up a day with him to record a podcast too, because he's going to be a great one to have on our show. But he all that is to say, I've learned some from him, but there's a perception that they're dumb just because their eyesight is poor. And they do have poor eyesight, which heightens their other senses. They rely more on their other senses of, hearing and smell. It's dampened when they're in these big groups, because if you play the wind right, they can't hear anything over their own noise if they're in a big group, and you can almost walk right up to them. Sometimes I've done it before, like just to see how close I could get to them. You can almost reach out and grab a piglet sometimes.
Mhm.
Like, you can get close if the wind's right. But these boars, like out where we are, all of our boars, unless the sow's in heat, the boars are loners. The boars travel by themselves. And the boars are smart. There's a reason they're as big as they are, just because the simple fact of them being able to travel by themselves and not in that noisy group, they hear and smell everything. Like, they're very intelligent. So there's this stigma out there that pigs are dumb, pigs are stupid. Pigs' senses are just dampened when they're in a group. So
Fascinating.
yeah.
Fascinating. You got me jacked to hunt. And I think that within itself is the power of good storytelling, but also the like when I was a guest on your podcast, I said inspired people inspire people.
Yeah.
When you live a life that is fulfilling, is rewarding, is motivating to yourself, other people see it and they're like, dude, I want what he has. I want what he's doing. I want to try it. I gotta get in on it. And already I'm like, oh baby, I can't wait. I gotta do it. And I know I'm gonna. The countdown's on. Is that what this fall obsession is?
Yeah. Yeah.
Like, it's hunting is not. It can't. For some people, I would say very few, hunting is a hobby.
Mm-hmm.
I would say for the majority, it's a lifestyle.
It is. And like I said, it's in your blood. There's for sure people that just do it because it's something to do, or they do it because, somebody that's significant in their life does it, and that's just something to do with them, or whatever the case might be. But one term that's relevant for me as a firefighter in the fire service that I've heard a lot lately is there's people that this is just what they do, and there's people where this is who they are. And I think that's applicable to a lot of things in life. It's definitely applicable to the fire service, and it's definitely applicable to hunting in the outdoors. There's people that, might just work in the outdoor industry. There's people who might just spend time outdoors just because they're looking for something to do. And I hope that they find a passion or an obsession for it through just exploring it as something to do. But then you have the people who have found that passion, that obsession. And to them, it's become who they are. It's part of their identity. They're obsessed about it. And the name Fall Obsession, I wish I could even remember all those years ago, like what I was even thinking when I thought of the name, because I can't. That's just always what I've called my hunting thing, at the various stages of its evolution. But I know for our team and for the people that are in our circles and stuff, you definitely see that passion. It's really cool. Like we had a group of Midwestern staffers go on a sandhill crane hunt in West Texas last winter. And it was right on the heels of our veteran hunt, so I didn't get to go out on it. But I was back from the veteran hunt when they were leaving the sandhill crane hunt. And so I met them up in Wichita Falls just as they were going back to the Midwest. I met them up there just to catch a burger with them, and hang out for a little bit at a restaurant. And you want to talk about people who are passionate about hunting. And I'm sitting there at the table. I'm looking at 8 people sitting there who have all. We talk about reflection too.
Yeah.
I'm sitting there, I'm watching 8 people sitting at that table who have become a part of the Fall Obsession family by a different avenue for each and every one, whatever the means was. And everybody's sitting there laughing, cutting up, having fun, talking hunting with passion, excited about the experience that they just got to go on, talking about next year already. Like, I was like, this is why we do it right here. This is why we create content. I've talked a lot about our staff. I haven't talked a whole lot about all the different avenues of content we create, but that's the reason we do. That's the reason we create all that content, is because we don't just want to share knowledge with people and information with people. Even the how and the why, while important, that's not the end all be all. We want people to see our passion and our obsession for this, and we want them to hook onto that.
Yeah.
And whether it's by becoming a part of our team or just following our journey, we want to have a positive impact on them in that means. And by growing the brand, we're, in my mind, growing the number of people out there who are equally as obsessed about the outdoors. So it's funny. We were setting up our new bows this year, Nick and I, at the bow shop, and same bow shop I've been going to. I used to work there way back, but I've been going there for, oh golly, 14 years now, I guess, that I've known the people there.
Yeah.
Since I first walked through the door there. And I'm just in there just doing my thing, just tuning a bow in the archery shop. You know, they let us come back there. They're cool. They'll let us use the press and do all that kind of stuff with the tech stuff. But just back there, and some dude comes up to Nick and I was like, "Hey, are y'all the Fall Obsession guys?" And I was like literally speechless. Like, I didn't know what to say, because in my mind, I'm just in my local bow shop, like where I always go. I'm Sam, tuning a bow like I've done for years.
Yeah.
And this guy's like, "Are y'all the Fall Obsession guys?" "Yeah, I listen to your podcast." And he starts talking about it, and I'm just like, man, that's it. I have no idea who that dude is. I might not ever see that dude again in my life, but we made an impact on him in a positive way, to where he's thirsty for more. He continues to listen to the show. He watches the video series that we have and stuff like that. That's why we do it.
Yeah.
So
Ego.
It's
an interesting thing when it comes to creating content.
Yes.
Especially when you get a response like that.
Yes.
Like, there is a little bit of like, oh man, it feels good to know that someone's actually listening to what
it feels good to be known. Yeah.
Do you ever find yourself thinking about that, or managing it, or in any regards?
It's hard it's hard to be humble and say that you're humble.
Yeah.
But I've never looked at it that way. Like, I've never, and I hope I never do, look at myself as somebody in this industry or anything that I do. Yeah, I don't want to sound like I've been neglecting it by saying that I haven't felt like I've had to manage it, but like this dude was literally the first dude that ever walked up to me and was like, "Hey, are y'all the Fall Obsession guys?"
Yeah.
And I think my ego was in check just because I didn't know what to say. I was just kind of shocked by it. Like, who we are. We've made it that far.
Yeah.
But it's I think humility is a big part as you excel in this industry. There's as you've learned, there's different circles in the hunting and outdoor industry, different types of people. Certainly the people who you can tell have an ego and who are not humble about it. They like being somebody. They like being known. I'm that guy. Like, I want to be able to walk into a room and nobody knows who I am.
Right.
I don't want heads to turn or stuff like that. That's never a goal of mine. Even with the fire service, I don't like t-shirt firemen is a term that we have. Like I'm very reserved about just even like when I go out in public. Like when I'm off duty, I don't wear anything hardly ever
That
that
says firefighter.
says firefighter. Now my wife will tell you my mustache
Gives you away.
is the dead giveaway. But I like, to me, like, I in that regard, I don't want people to look at me in that way. Not that it's bad that they would, but I just want to be a guy. You know, I just want to go to the grocery store and just be a guy getting groceries. You know, I don't. I just want to go to Cabela's and be a guy looking for ammo. You know, or whatever the case might be. It's just, um, yeah. I don't know if that really answers your question or not. I
No,
really don't. But
it does. It's interesting to, ego is such. So, okay, from my experience, because I got into this game later in life, where as an adult, right, it's different being a kid growing up and finding yourself and going through this, growing pains and all that. But as an adult, getting into it and looking around and being like, okay, I see where you stand. I see how you guys are. I want to be like you. I don't want to be like you. And at the same time, I want to be a better hunter.
right.
I want to kill animals. I want to fill freezers. I want to fulfill my soul
Yeah.
that I have. And I can tell you this. I haven't actually shared this ever on a podcast before.
Oh, first time. All
This is
right.
the first time.
Yeah.
I've never, because we've talked ego before on podcasts, but not in this regard. I remember on my very first hunt, this hunt right here,
Yeah.
where I killed that bear. I remember my hunting partner, Two Shot Tony, who is our video editor here at Soul Seekers. He's like, dude, like, what do you want? What would be your goal? And I told him, this is before I even had an Instagram account. So hear me out on this.
Okay.
Because being a school teacher, I was like anti-social media.
Yeah.
Like, I do not want my life out there because I don't want to be found
Oh,
by
dude,
people that are,
if I didn't have fall obsession, like if none of it had ever happened, I probably would not have any social media. I'm right there with you. I get it.
So he goes, dude, what do you want? I go, I want to be a professional hunter. That's what I want.
Yeah.
Not even realizing that it would be, I'm not a professional hunter yet. I'm not there yet.
Yeah.
I'm working towards it. I'm going to get it.
Well, I got a question for you after you finish your story.
And I want to hunt for a living is what I also finished up saying. And it's just like wild that in 2017, that's what I said. Not ever thinking about filming a hunt, not ever thinking about social media, not ever thinking about outdoor riding or podcasting.
Yeah.
Like I just wanted to fill my very first tag.
Yeah.
And I was obsessed with outdoor content.
Yeah.
Leading up to it, I was like, give it to me as much as possible.
Yeah. So, do you define professional hunter as somebody who can make a living in the hunting industry, or as somebody that other people look at as that dude knows how to hunt?
That is a great question. I've never been asked that before, so let me put some thought to this for a second. To my wife, it would be someone who hunts for a living.
Yes, mine as well. Let's start there.
And then like it's a sliding scale to point where I'm recognizable within the hunting world, the hunting space. I've left my legacy in it. Like, oh, that guy is the such and such guy.
Yeah.
Like, does that make sense?
It makes sense. So I know, like with me and our staff and our dynamic, like we promote that family aspect, and that's one thing that I never want our staff to see me as like this dude that's up here over Fall Obsession and over everybody. I have my job running the company, but I'm just a hunter and a guy just like the rest of them. And that's how I want to be seen. And so I know when we brought Todd in, for, like we talked about with him becoming the staff manager and being over the program, one of the things was delegating that so that I didn't have to do it. I needed to delegate it because I needed to do all this other stuff over here. That's where my attention was needed, and Todd was the right person for that job. But for me, it was hard because I'm like, I feel like I'm adding a layer in between me and the staff. I feel like I'm like
unreachable.
Unintentionally like setting myself apart, so a new guy coming in, to me, I'm a picture on a website, a face on a video, a voice on a podcast, but not a guy that he's ever talked to. So that's why even though Todd runs the program, I still try to be in every single field staff video interview that I can be, so that I can talk to these people myself. I still try to, hop on the monthly meet, like Todd does a monthly meeting with all the staff, anybody that can tune in and attend virtually. I try to hop on those so that I can talk to people, I can answer questions, I can ask questions, stuff like that, interact with individuals. And then I just, I don't want that to go away. I still want to be able to feel like I'm a staffer too. There's some days I would rather let somebody else take over the company and just be a pro staffer as well. But you talked about ego. You talked about the kind of personalities and stuff. And there's two people before Fall Obsession was ever anything like it is now. There's two people that I met that are bigger names in the hunting and outdoor industry that kind of set a good example for me now, like seeing the direction we're hopefully going. I can look at them as examples of people who, in my opinion, have stayed humble while they climb to the top.
Yeah.
And the first one is Levi Morgan. I had an opportunity when I was working at the bow shop. I came in on my day off. It was right before the Paris, Texas archery shoot, a few days before. And I walked in to do whatever I was going to do. I don't even remember. And I looked out on the range there inside, and it looked to me like that was Levi Morgan standing over there. So I asked one of the guys who was working. I was like, "Hey, is that Levi Morgan?" He said, "Yeah, he's out there just a few days before Paris. He's working on his bows, doing tuning up, whatever." And we had a game that we play at the shop after it closed called Knox, where you would shoot your arrow into a target, not for the bullseye, but you would try to match we get a colorful target up there, and you would shoot your arrow in, and you would try to match the color of your fletching and your knock with the color of the target, hide your arrow basically, and then from where you shot from, the next guy has to come up and Robin Hood your arrow.
Oh yeah.
And if he Robin Hoods your arrow, you're out. So that was an expensive game sometimes that we would play at the shop after it closed. So one of the guys like, "Hey," we called the game Knox. He's like, "Hey, I dare you to go over there and challenge Levi to a game of Knox." I was like, "Okay." So I grabbed my bow. My bow was at the shop. I grabbed it and walked over there. I introduced myself to him, talked for a second, and I said, "Hey, would you want to play this game with me?" And I explained it to him, and he's like, "Yeah, sounds good." So for 45 minutes, I sat there on an indoor range, just me and Levi Morgan, sitting there shooting bows. And for 45 minutes, it was not just Sam shooting with Levi Morgan. It was just two dudes shooting bows. There was no ego. He was not in that moment a 13, 14-time world champion or anything like that. He was a dude that was just trying to shoot the back end of my arrow. That's all he was. And he was kind of getting ticked off sometimes at that game too, which was even funner. So that was a good just like, man, there are humble people out there. Like he never once tried to be or pretend to be a world champion there in front of me.
Yeah.
And a year later, he came back to the shop. Of course, I was working that day, but I didn't think anything of it. I was like, he's not going to remember me. And he came up to the counter and he was like, hey, we played that game last year, didn't we? I was like, yeah, we did. So that's one example of just a humble dude, and I followed his journey and everything in archery, and I'd consider him a role model, just to
Yeah.
in some aspects in this industry and stuff. But that's one guy that obviously an impression like that, it just stuck with me.
Mm-hmm.
So I always think back to that
Yeah.
a lot.
Yeah.
So
That's awesome. I I don't necessarily have any big moment like that where I was looking at like, oh man, here these people are. If I had something that would be most relative to that, it would be Big Al Morris, the coyote hunter from Fox Pro.
uh-huh.
In 2020, I went and did a seminar at Western Hunting Expo in Salt Lake City, and he was the seminar presenter right after me. And I was like, no freaking way, dude. That's Big Al.
Yeah.
And I went up to him and I was like, hey, man, I just want you to know, like, your hunting shows I've watched religiously, and I've enjoyed your content so much, and you've made a difference and
Yeah.
inspired me and all that. And shoot, now him and I, we talk all the time. And he was just this week, Monday's episode, I released a podcast episode with him, and I, get to sit down dinner with him and his wife
That's awesome.
out at the Hunt Expo every year. And I'm just like, it just goes to show. So where I'm going with that is no risk, no reward.
Right.
I didn't know how to hunt. I started to go after it. I went after it. I, for some reason, felt like I wanted to be a professional hunter. I'm not there yet. However, now just through putting myself out there and doing these different things, the whole world has opened up to me.
Yeah.
Like now I have the ability, if schedules ever lined up, to hunt with all these people I've watched on TV and be like, holy smokes, man. Like,
Man, and so that's the cool thing, like just through even as far as I've, fall obsession and me being a part of it and stuff, as far as we've made it in this journey so far, just the opportunities that I haven't even been able to take advantage of all of them, but the opportunities that have come along for just hunting trips and, experiences through the podcast, the people that I've gotten to meet and everything, and the people I've gotten to podcast with has been pretty awesome. People that I never would have thought that I get to podcast with. There's people that I watched hunting growing up, and just like you now, like I text them all the time.
yeah,
It's like, it's just it's cool that you have this idea of what they're like, or they are a person on a screen, to you to a point, and then you actually meet them, and then you actually become friends with them, and you begin learning like the humble side of this industry.
Yeah.
Us getting involved with CarbonTV was like that. Like I knew what CarbonTV was. I knew it was a hunting and outdoor streaming platform. Did I ever consider that Fall Obsession was gonna be on there?
Yeah.
No. And Autumn and Jules, if they listen to this, they'll probably laugh when I tell this story from my side of us getting plugged into Carbon. But they were trying, from my understanding, they were trying to get the podcast side of Carbon like kind of ramped up and get some more shows online. I don't recall how they found us, but Autumn sent me an email about Fall Obsession podcast, and before she got married, I forget what her Stawecki was her last name. So I saw that pop up in my inbox. I was like, that's spam. That was my initial reaction. I was like, yeah, that's spam. I get spam emails all the time. That's spam. But I didn't delete it. I left it in there for a few days. And then one day I opened it and I read it and I was like, CarbonTV? Really? And then I thought about it for a little bit longer. And then eventually I looked her up on Instagram. I was like, is this a real person? And so I looked her up on Instagram. I was like, oh, VP of operations for CarbonTV. That is a real person. I should probably respond to that email. And so that's what started the whole conversation with them.
Yeah.
And then we were supposed to have our meeting, our call, where we, and to my knowledge, it was going to be just me and Autumn talking about the podcast and the opportunity to have the podcast on CarbonTV and what all that entailed. And then I tuned in the call, and Jules McQueen's on the call, and I knew who Jules McQueen was. But I was like, I did not expect this at all. And just two of the most down-to-earth, cool people that you're ever going to meet,
Yeah.
But and by the end of that phone call, we had a podcast and three video shows on CarbonTV. So it's crazy how the things happen. It just like
So cool.
I never would have thought that was a possibility, and in a day everything, well, it would have been a day if I hadn't have let the email sit for so long, but in a very short period of time it changed.
Yeah.
So it's crazy.
So I had kind of an experience like that in regards to when I started creating content of my blog. And I wanted to research mentorship within hunting because mentorship is conservation. I was like, man, there's some article I read out in Montana, Glasgow newspaper, and some local track coach takes another school teacher out hunting and teaches them how to hunt. I'm like, huh, sounds like a guy I need to talk to.
Huh.
I wonder if this person has an Instagram account. And so I just am searching Instagram accounts, hoping that a profile picture somewhat looks outdoorsy to line up with the potential of this person named in this news article.
Yeah.
So I send off this Instagram message. Says, I don't know who this person is. They don't know who I am. I get a response. I was like, are you this guy who this article is written about in regards to mentorship, blah, blah, blah. I'm new hunter. This is what I stand for and believe in. I want to pick your brain. I get a response. I start messaging back and forth with them. Turns out it's the editor-in-chief of Outdoor Life magazine.
That's awesome.
Who then is like, yeah, come on out and hunt with me, all this stuff, if you're ever passing through. And here I am, like really the world is your oyster.
Yeah.
What do you want? And go get it. Go create it. Go make it. Go get after it, whether it's being a professional hunter or inspiring generations of people or putting out fires in your daily work. And
yeah.
And I get motivated by that stuff. It lights a fire. It's like you never know. Just like that in the rut of the whitetail, you never know what buck's gonna randomly just show up.
No, I love that. I love that mentality. I love that feeling in whatever you're doing. To your point, it's that's a piece. It's not the sole reason. It's a piece of why I do what I do as a profession too. I can't sit behind a desk. Doing a desk job or a Monday through Friday job even is just, it's not me. I show up to work, and in a split second, I go from, this to up here. We're freaking rolling.
Yeah.
And you never know what the day's gonna hold. You have no idea in 10 seconds if literally a call's gonna change your life, change somebody else's life. It's just, I whether it's hunting, anything else in life, I guess I live for the unknown. I don't know.
I love that. Sam, brother, it has been so much fun having you on. Thanks for coming over to the house. Soul Seeker Studio, first video podcast.
Yeah.
Hopefully with the help of
Fall Obsession.
Dude.
It's a Soul Seekers podcast, but it's a Fall Obsession production. So there you go. This is a freebie. So
well, I'll tell you this. One of the things that I've shared with you off air is every year and for several years, 3 times a year, we used to do community events. And I know with such influx of new people into Texas from the West, that there are a lot of people that want to learn how to hunt or get into the self-sustaining lifestyle. And we're going to have to do some co-branding community events here
Yes,
and really pack the house and inspire people.
I think that would be pretty cool. And a thing that you have told me off air from getting to know you and you coming to Texas was you told me you're like, man, I felt like everybody down here just hunted. There's a lot of people in Texas that don't hunt, and you're 100% right. There are a lot of people down here that have never hunted before.
Right.
So contrary to everybody's belief, everybody thinks we're just rednecks with rifles and everybody just goes out there every hunting season and blasts away. It's not quite the case.
Oh,
So,
man. Yeah. So, brother, share with the listeners all the different platforms and avenues in which they can find your content.
So we got a lot going on for sure. We do have a strong social media presence on all the main platforms. So Facebook, Instagram, Twitter,
X.
X. I guess we X now. So I don't know how I'm supposed. Still getting used to that one. We are on the TikTok as well. I was a holdout on that, but my marketing director convinced me to pull the trigger.
Go.
So we are on TikTok as Fall Obsession Media. There's also, if you guys haven't heard about it, there's an app called Go Wild that is a censorship-free app specifically for hunting and outdoors, and it's pretty cool. We're active on there. We post all our content on there as well. So if you are on Go Wild or you create a profile, it's free. Go follow Fall Obsession. Are you guys on there?
Yeah. Well, I'm on there as an individual. As Johnny Mac.
Okay. Well, go follow Johnny Mac then.
Do I need to create a Soul Seekers account?
I have a Sam account and I have a Fall Obsession account. I can't remember the last time I logged into my Sam account. If I'm being honest, I'm always on the Fall Obsession account. But it's a cool platform and not to drag anything out, but I've enjoyed being on there just simply seeing the interaction. Like, we don't have anywhere near the followers on there that we have on Facebook or even Instagram, but the interaction that we get from other hunters on
More
there
genuine?
is more genuine for sure. Like, I threw up a picture last year, or maybe the year before, I don't remember. It was just of a whitetail buck that I had a picture of him out on Texas dirt, and I simply asked the question like, "Hey, last day of the season, you shooting this deer or not?" And it just blew up. Like, people were talking all about this deer, just this random deer that I had a picture of. Like, it's cool. It's not, I don't know, you see more, to your point, genuine interaction from hunters and outdoorsmen on there than you do on the other platforms, which is pretty neat. So,
I've been working on getting Brad Luttrell on the podcast. No, Brad Luttrell. Yeah, Brad Luttrell.
He's been on our podcast.
He has.
Yeah.
I hit him up back in the spring. I was like, dude, come on. He's like, man, I'm slammed right now.
He is a very busy dude. I will say that. And rightfully so. He's built a pretty cool thing over there. Yeah. But yeah, so all the social media platforms, we're on there. We, like you guys, publish a new podcast episode every Monday morning on all major podcast platforms and on CarbonTV, Waypoint TV as well. So wherever you guys want to listen, you can listen. We post video versions of our podcast on our YouTube too, so y'all can go check those out. And then we have all of our different video series. We have 3 of them on CarbonTV, and that's our Texas Dirt series, which I've talked a lot about here. We have one of our staff members up in Michigan. His name's Michael Teepee. He's one of the smartest deer hunters I know, and very knowledgeable on whitetail habitat up there in the Midwest. Mm-hmm. So we now produce a series. He films and produces, and we put it out there, a series called Midwest Mindset up there for his habitat management up there that he's doing on multiple properties in Michigan and Indiana up there. So it's pretty, also on CarbonTV. We have a series called Couch Chats that is basically it's like our staff podcast almost. We don't have very many episodes out yet, but it is on CarbonTV.
But with Fall Obsession people talking to Fall Obsession people?
Yes. We basically just put out there like, hey, anybody that wants to sit down with a camera or a mic and talk to any other hunter, just go for it. Yeah. Just do it. You don't have to be a guest on our podcast to talk hunting. So we created that just kind of like an avenue for them to be able to do just that, to capture those conversations that even from a podcast host, like I might not have the opportunity to capture or record with some of these people. But because they know them and they can just sit down and talk with them, just friends, that they've known forever, by golly, do it. So we started that series, and it's going pretty good. We got some plans for some episodes coming up with that. I think we only got like 8 episodes out so far of it, but it's pretty cool. Those are the series on Carbon. You go to our YouTube channel. We got a couple other cool things. We post a lot of standalone videos like gear reviews and other things on there. But a series that I'm trying to get ramped back up that we kind of fell off of last year is a series called My Obsession that we do, and we try to find those people out there who are very unique individuals in the hunting community whose story might not be told otherwise. And we basically make a film, a video production just around their story and everything. We only have a handful of them out so far. I have one more in the queue right now, but it's kind of cool just to get down to sit down and talk with some of these people and do something to share their story that is absolutely fascinating, but wouldn't be told if we didn't do it. So
gotcha.
We do that. fallobsession.com is the website. Everything funnels through there. That's where you guys can go to find all of our content. Everything is on there, and the avenues to get to all the various media platforms as well. And we have merch as well. So if you want to support a small-time hunting brand, we actually, at the time we're recording this today, we dropped a couple new T-shirts out. So trying to get some new swag out for the 2023 hunting season.
Yeah,
so
I love it.
Yeah.
I love it. You guys also launched Hog Wars.
Hog Wars as well. I forgot about that. It's like a Texas Dirt mini-series. It's like we have a series, and then we have a series within the series almost. We were debating whether or not to launch a whole new thing, and I was like, no, I kind of just want to do a spin-off, because Texas Dirt, we're trying to refocus in Season 3 back to, while there is going to be deer hunting and stuff in there, we're trying to redirect some of the focus to the original intention of that series in talking about Texas whitetail hunting tactics and wildlife behavior that impacts that. We're trying to bring that back to the focus of the show. We have a bunch of hogs out there. We have plans to do a bunch of hog hunting. I didn't want the whitetail management series to be saturated with hog hunting. So Hog Wars is a series of opportunity where if we get a chance to go out there and kill some pigs or do anything hog hunting related, we're going to film a Hog Wars episode and post it as a Hog Wars episode. So you can go watch deer hunting stuff, or if you just want to watch pig stuff, you can go to Hog Wars.
Sweet. I love it. Well, guys, thanks for tuning in to this episode. As always, go support our fellow hunters. Go check out fallobsession.com. Pick up a new shirt. Go check out all the awesome content they are kicking out. And good luck this coming hunting season. Dude, I hope you get your target buck.
I'm going to show you pictures as soon as we get off here. He is nice. I hope I get him too. It's going to be cool.
I love it. Guys, remember that hunting has the power to transform lives through primal adventure, and that you can never outgive good, as mentorship is conservation. I'm Johnny Mack for Sam Thrash and Fall Obsession. Be blessed, everybody. Remember to freedom on. And as always, stay soulful.
Stay obsessed.
Oh. If you enjoyed today's podcast and want to support the show, you can always like, share, subscribe, and leave a rating, as it helps us share our mission of mentorship is conservation. Thank you so much for tuning in and being a part of Soul Seekers Nation as we transform lives through primal adventure. If you want to get more connected with the podcast, check out the Soul Seekers Nation Facebook group, as I look forward to connecting with you on the next episode. So stay tuned and stay soulful.